Hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 20th day of July, 2023. I hope everybody's having a good week so far. It got really hot yesterday. It was either 97 or 98. That wasn't fun. I stayed in the house most of the time, other than in the morning I was out and looking at stuff growing, and I planted some more radishes, and because we ate all the others, and I don't know, we'll see how that goes. I planted one. I already planted some in that same spot, and nothing happened, and I don't know what's going on there, but I don't know. Hopefully these seeds will grow, but I'm not sure. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if we just didn't water them enough, or I don't know. It's the way it goes. Gardening is not for the faint of heart, particularly on the high desert. But right now our weather's doing pretty well. It's just super hot, and I expect that that's not going to get any better for any time soon. So anyhow, let's take a look at today's Elder Futhark rune, the above side of things. This is Uruz. Uruz is the second rune of the Elder Futhark, and so that's going to align with today's numerology. It's the 20th day, so that reduces to 2. So there's some 2 is about balance and reciprocity and love and giving, and but there's just a balance to it, decisions also. But Uruz means the oryx. Oryx was a type of bison, I guess. Or maybe bisons are a type of oryx, I should probably say. That's probably more accurate. But it kind of looks kind of like a bison, doesn't it? And it's just kind of the way the bison, if you look at overall how a bison's shaped, kind of is like that. But basically, it's manifestation. It's the primal forming essence. It's literally, it's about healing and strength and endurance and all of that, but it's energy that shapes matter. So it's not the ultimate result of something, of the manifestation. It's not what manifests. It's the energy that does that. It's the decision, if we look at it from a 2 standpoint, to manifest something, and the energy behind that, being the primal forming essence. It's the energy before it all happens. It's the intention, and what is that going to look like? Is it going to be one that is lofty and reflecting higher awareness, or is it going to be something that's ego-centered and something else entirely? Let's look at the so below side with the Geomancy rune, and I'll go ahead and throw down the 4 elemental runes. We'll put them in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. Well, this is easy because it's all single dots, so it's via. Geomancy is interesting because it's 8 concepts and you have 2 runes for each one, so 2 sides of the same concept. In this case, you would have via, which is the path or the way, and it's more intentional. It's something that, let me put Uruz over here. It's intentional, as opposed to if you saw populace, its complement, instead of single dots, there would be 2 dots all the way down for fire, air, water, and earth. And that would be passive influence. That would be like following along or following the crowd. Here, you're asserting your own path. So there's that energy, again, the intention to do that with Uruz. What is the intention behind it? Again, is it higher awareness, or is it going to be ego? And if Uruz is also about healing and strength, then it's the type of manifestation that you're wanting to have has got to have that component to it. So it's about the ability to either heal within or to help someone else heal themselves, to provide healing in a situation, maybe, to provide compassion to somebody. It might be something like that, but it's the idea of energy shaping matter, energy shaping our decisions, or the intention to shape our decisions, and then to act on that in a direct way. and in terms of creating your own path. You're not really, this is something you're doing on your own as opposed to engaging with others together doing it. So this is more of a direct kind of experience versus one that's collaborative, I think. And again, if this is a lesson in how to set intention and where that comes from, hopefully the cards will give us a little bit of information there. Because we have to be very careful, what the intention is. Again, is it coming from higher awareness, or is it coming, which is who we are, by the way, or is it coming from ego, which is all subjective, it's all judgmental, and it's not particularly, loving, really, or positive necessarily. So let me get my keyboard out of the way here. So we begin with the card Temperance, and we move on to the Knight of Wands, and then we end with the Five of Wands. Now we might end up putting, well, we don't have to, though, I don't think. Let's look at the card of Temperance first. Temperance is the 14th card of the Major Arcana, gives a 5 numerology. So looking at this just, from a physical standpoint, an observational standpoint, we end up with a 5 numerology on one side and a 5 on the other. But this is going to hold a little more weight, given that it's a soul archetype card from the Major Arcana. Here we see the angel pouring water from one chalice to another. The angel has 1 foot on the land and 1 foot in the water. We see yellow irises growing there to the left of the angel, to our right. And over to our left, or the angel's right, we see a path in between the pond, or if it's a pond, or the body of water. I don't know how big this is. We'll just call it a pond. From the pond all the way up between 2 peaks on the mountains where the sun is rising in between them. You see that? We have a lot of greenery here and here. We see the glyph for fire in the center of the angel's gown, and we see on the angel's head a yellow hair here, but she's blonde hair. We see a lot of emanations out on all, around the whole thing. And then we see a sun disk in the center, carrying on the fire element. The wings are also red, indicative of the fire element. But here, what the angel's doing in terms of temperance, it's moderation, it's balancing will with emotion, or the fire and water elements. Water tends to quench fire, whereas air stirs it up. Earth would be grounding, and it looks like the angel is grounding here by putting her foot on. We'll say a her. It's actually an it. The angel is putting its foot on the ground, thus grounding it to the earth. We'll say it that way. But you have a new day here with the sun rising in between the peaks, and the new day suggests balance and harmony and integration. And that it's coming from higher awareness. That's grounding our reality. Our physical reality is grounded by higher awareness. Anytime you see 2 side by side in tarot, and you'll see that throughout the tarot, that's going to be balance. It's going to be some kind of it can also, if it's mountains, it can also indicate strength and endurance, just like Uruz does. But it takes strength to do that. It takes inner strength to keep your will in check with your emotions, to keep those in balance with one another. Otherwise, the emotions might, quench the will, but maybe make you not see things clearly. But at the same time, you don't want to have so much will that it overshadows the emotions, or it acts on the emotions in a way that maybe is judgmental or what have you. So there's a lot of different ways that water and fire can either work for or against one another, and ideally for them to work the best is where they're in balance with one another. The same with anytime you're looking at the passive versus the active influence, fire and air would be active, and earth and water would be passive. And so you're trying to keep those two sides of the same coin essentially in balance with one another. It's you can see that in the form of balanced polarity and all of that. But let's move on. So anyway, we're going to manifest today in a way that's keeping will and emotion in balance, and so less control, trying to not asserting so much control over something, maybe allowing the receptive side of self to sort of calm some of that a little bit and keep you in check with that, keep your will in check. So there's not a misuse of force in the whole thing, or the misuse of a personal agenda or something. But again, temperance is moderation. It's balance. Now, here we have the Knight of Wands. You could say that he's out manifesting something. You see him. One of the key aspects of this, though, is the three pyramids here that indicate the Holy Land. So knights are on a quest. In this case, it's a spiritual quest. He holds his staff held high there above the horse that is rearing up, ready to go. He's not in battle. His visor's up. If it were down, he'd be in battle, but he's not. You see the Ouroboros, you see the salamander, which is an elemental for a fire element. Wands reflects the fire element. You see it all over his clothing there, his tunic, trying to reach its tail, coming full circle, in a sort of unity there. But you can see here on the staff, though, you see that there's still vitality in this staff, because you see the leaves growing out of it. So the source for that growth is not from the ground, it's from higher awareness, because it's not connected any longer to the ground. It's still growing. There's still life force within it. That's part of the fire element, is life force, creativity, new opportunities, how you invoke the will into whatever you're doing. And again, we already know we have to do it in balance with emotions. But this suggests that he is protective, he's active, he's about progress, he's willing to take risks, he's on a quest, he's adventurous, he's passionate. But there's still a spiritual component to this. And so again, you're looking at that primal forming force before it reaches physical awareness. So that's coming from higher self. So when we go ahead and we take a measured approach with temperance, we're still willing to go out on a new experience and a new quest, toward learning new things, or just experiencing things in life. You're willing to take the risk, but you're willing to keep the will and emotions in balance. Fear doesn't come into play. It keeps a lid on the fear with emotions that might impact your ability to go out and take risks, or to explore new ideas or explore new experiences. If you have too much water, then maybe there's too much fear, and it quenches fire, and you don't go out and do things, right, that you want to do. Maybe a new opportunity comes that could be quite lucrative for you, but you're too afraid to take it. And so with temperance, it's saying keep those two things in check so that you can then go out and explore new opportunities in the world. And again, that's your singular path with Vaya. Then we come to this fun card. I think I might take one more card here. We have the Five of Wands again. So we have a run on wands, run on the fire element, a run on the will, a run on new opportunities, and new exploration. Five is about change. It's about protection and variety and innovation, freedom versus restriction. And again, you hopefully keep that freedom versus restriction in balance here by keeping the water element in line with the will. So you can still go and do things, but if you look at this as the will, and this part is expressing the will, and this part expressing the emotions or the water element, and this is the fire element, then you still have to be able to do things, and you can't let fear control that process. But anyway, we come to the five. Now this is creative conflict. If you look very, very closely, no one's hitting anyone. But there's all these ideas, there's all these things that are being expressed, right? These positions. And everybody just seems to be in their own space. Even though they're right there, nobody's hitting one another with this, though. There might be conflict, there might be conflicting experiences. This could be simply coming together with his friends and saying, hey, guess what I did? And the other saying, yeah, guess what I did? And, it could be something as simple as that. Maybe the five is suggesting the change there is the fact that you're no longer on the singular path here with Vaya, and you're coming back to share your experiences with others. Maybe you wouldn't have done that before. The thing about this is nobody's listening to one another, really. At least you can't tell that they are, because they're all promoting their own thing, their own agenda, their own, creative idea out there. So we do need another card. I don't know where it's going to go. Maybe it should go first. Let's try reading it that way before we take another card. So you've got all this stuff going on and you don't know where to go with it. Nobody's really listening to one another. It's clear that, you need a different level of manifestation. You need a little different energy behind that manifestation. You need a little bit different path to go on. And Uruz and Vaya suggest that. Because here there's just too much going on. So you balance will with emotions so that you're not letting fear hold you back, and then you take off on your new opportunity or your new quest by yourself. You take a new direction, one that's spiritual in nature, or at least has a spiritual component to it. Let's go ahead and take another card. I'll cut the deck. I'll take the 13th card. Well, this would definitely suggest it. If the three pyramids are suggesting a spiritual component to the quest, the Hermit really reinforces that. The 9th card of the Major Arcana. Here we have a man with white hair. He's wearing a cloak with the hood up. He's holding a staff in one hand. He's holding a lit lantern in his right hand, and if you look closely, the light is a Merkaba, or a soul vehicle. You see he's up on the mountaintops here in the snow. He's getting away from everything. He's basically, the Hermit's about retreat and withdrawal. Whereas the Hanged Man, the 12th card of the Major Arcana, it's about alignment in spirit and sacrifice and letting go and surrender, basically surrendering to enlightenment or awakening, surrendering to spirit. Here he's gaining wisdom from spirit. He's getting above it all, retreating from the world, the noise of the world, even the noise of his own thoughts. and he is gaining a higher perspective up there. So if you're in a situation then today where it feels like, nothing is really being accomplished, it's just a lot of people asserting their own positions and their own ideas and all of that, and not really listening to other people. They're not really concerned about other people. If that's what this is talking about here, then a change needs to happen. There needs to be something that you need to do to gain a little bit different balance. And this is just very, very active. A lot of stuff is going on. And again, nobody's striking one another, which is a good thing. But it's just like an exercise of wills altogether, a battle of wills, maybe, if you want to see it that way. And a change needs to happen. And that change that has to happen, again, here is another 5 energy. A 5 numerology. 14 reduces to 5 here with the card of temperance. So that reinforces the change. Together, 5 and 5 is 10. That's 1. So that's new beginnings. So something new has to happen as a result of it. And it has to come from balancing will with emotion. A new day is coming, with the sun rising between the 2 peaks, but it has to be in balance. Here, there's no balance. So you take off on your own, on your new adventure, on your new quest. And it involves a little trip through the Holy Land. So it has to do with spirituality. Seeing things from a higher perspective, especially when the battle of wills is going on. Sometimes you've just got to step away from it and say, you know what, I got to go for a while. I got to take some time for myself and think about all this stuff and see what I really want to do and where I want to go. And I don't feel like I'm accomplishing anything here. And, so I wish you well, but I'm going to go take a trip. I'm going to go do something else. And it does involve spirituality. It involves the soul and gaining soul awareness, gaining higher awareness, and letting that be the light that you show other people. 9, again, is about endings and completion. It's also about generosity and spirituality. So I think what we manifest, what the primal forming essence, this to me is ego, because nobody's listening to one another. You don't see them sitting down at a table or sitting down or standing there looking at one another and talking to one another. You just see like, here's my idea, no, here's my idea, here's what I think, here's what I think. There's nothing collaborative about this. It's just a big mess. I mean, they seem to be enjoying themselves, and like I say, nobody's hitting anyone, so that's a good thing. But I don't know that anybody's listening to one another either. And it's just too much assertion of their own, ideas and just an exercise of a battle of wills, if, I think here. And again, nothing's going to get accomplished that way. And so you got to calm it down a little bit with a little water, with the water element, and bring a different level of balance there. Because that's really what gets away from us. It's the active elements, the will with the fire element, and intellect with air. Our will takes over, our mouths take over, and who knows. And nothing gets accomplished because there's too much battling going on, instead of listening to one another and hearing what each person has to say and what they have to offer, and doing things maybe in a little more dispassionate way. And that would just be adding a little of the water element in to sort of quench some of that fire that's going on. But when you're ready to do that, then you go off in a new direction and you explore new ideas and new opportunities, but you do it in a way that understands the overall situation from a spiritual perspective, from a soul perspective, from higher awareness. And you use that primal forming force to decide your intention and to manifest from there. But again, where is the beginning of it? Is it with ego, or is it with higher awareness? Is it with spirit? And I think what the reading is suggesting today, that the primal forming essence behind what we do, what we think, what we say, has to come from higher awareness, the higher self, from the soul. Other than looking at everything that's going on and respond. It's like when you respond before you've even heard what the person says completely. You're thinking about your response, I should say, before, and maybe even you interrupt them, but it's thinking about what you're going to say before you even hear what the person says completely. You hear the first 3 or 4 words, and it's like the back goes up, and you're like, oh, and I have to say something. It was like, so you start thinking about what that is. Maybe you even say it before they're done talking. But what you're not doing is you're not listening, and you're not really seeing what they're saying, because they may start out one way and end up in another, and it's just their process when they talk. And so it's always best to, just listen, which is really, really hard. It's really hard for me to do that. And I know it's hard for others. I've actually taken active listening courses to learn how to do that. How to stop myself from thinking about what I'm going to say before I've even heard the other person out completely. I mean, I may end up still saying it, but it's respectful to listen. It's a good thing, because maybe they'll tell you even more, even if it means you're going to be more outraged. It doesn't matter. At least and you haven't interrupted them. And the conversation doesn't switch to, well, no, you didn't listen to everything I said. I said this too, So then you feel silly, and because you jumped the gun. But I think the emphasis on higher awareness here, both with Uruz and Temperance on through Knight of Wands and the Hermit, I think that those are the answers to all of this battle of wills that's going on. So even if it's today, if you have a circumstance or situation where you're with other people and a battle of wills breaks out, before you comment on it, it might be good to say something to the effect of, what, I need to, this has been really interesting. You've all said and done a lot of, you said a lot of stuff here. You've brought forth a lot of ideas and expressed, this and that. And I just need to take a step back now and process all of it before I respond. And I'm going to go do that. And then you get quiet and you think about things from, instead of the ego perspective, from the higher perspective. And then maybe you can then go back and make a better contribution. I think that's what the Hermit is trying to do. This is not just gaining his own enlightenment. This is bringing that light to the world below. You see what I'm saying? Bringing the light of spirit into the conversation, into the expectations, and see if you can't reduce the battle of wills that's going on. I mean, they may not listen to you, but at least you know where you stand with it. And if you have to then say, you know what, those are all cool things, that's great, but I have some other ideas that I think I want to explore. So you guys go ahead, I'm going to go do this over here. I'm going to go do my thing. And then try to do it from the angle of higher awareness, instead of, having it devolve into a battle of wills with other people. Be the light, to others. Express the light of spirit to others. And see what happens, see what impact it has. You'll be surprised. It's kind of hard, when someone, because you may end up saying something really profound to them if you go back and have a conversation with them. You may end up saying something really profound after you took that time to see it from that perspective that could shift everything. It's kind of hard, when it's like when a little child, when adults are arguing, and the little child would come up and they'll say something just extraordinary, kind of the out of the mouths of babes, sort of thing. And everyone just kind of stops and looks at the child, and then they look at one another. It's like, suddenly whatever they were arguing about doesn't seem so relevant anymore, And I think, drawing that fourth card of the Hermit, I think that reinforces all of this. So on this 2 numerology day, where balance and reciprocity and receptiveness come into play, what is your primal forming essence that you're going to express and manifest? What is that? What will your manifestation be coming from? What is your intention, and what's the essence behind it? Is it soul essence or something else? So anyway, that's it. I think we did it. Finally. Sometimes you got to work your way to it. But I really think that we're living in a time where there's lots of weird stuff going on. And people throw out all this nonsense that, if it wasn't so damaging, it would almost be laughable. Like somebody says something really stupid and then everybody laughs, including them. It's like, oh, geez, why did I say that? That wasn't what I meant. But they mean this stuff. And they're trying to persuade people to believe crazy stuff. And it's just, at some point, you got to step away from it. And it's why I named my blog Stepping Aside. The web address, by the way, there is imsteppingaside.com. You can, if you forget, click on more and a little window will open and it's right up there at the top. It's why I named it that, because it's like I tend not to think about things the way other people do just to begin with. It's just kind of how I am. It's how people like me are. And we sort of go our own way and think about things from, some off the wall perspective. It's pretty esoteric and it's hard to be in the world when it's chaotic. And so, like the hermit, we tend to retreat, and I do, and think about things, about what's really real, what's the truth, what's the fundamental overall truth here, from higher self. What's that? What? How is that really? Can we manifest that? And then, when you do go back to the world, it's like, well, here's what I think. And sometimes people will do a double take, and which is good, I guess. Maybe it makes them rethink things. I don't know. But with the way the world is right now, stepping away from the chaos is just, I don't know. I think it's just helpful to do it, no matter how it turns out. You just do it because you need that time for self-care. Really, you need that time to renew your spirit and to get out of the noise of it all. Because there's no solution here, There just isn't a solution there, at least not for me. It doesn't lie here. It lies here. And so, maybe you'll find that it does for you too. So anyhow, thanks for watching. I hope you'll click subscribe if you haven't, and come back again on Monday. I do this on Mondays and Thursdays for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.